Hello again, YouTube. Welcome back to another Star Trek The Next Generation book discussion. This time we have just finished up book number 5, Strike Zone, a novel by Peter David. Strike Zone, a hidden cache of superweapons, a deadly race to prevent galactic war. I'll read the back for you. Deep in the uncharted regions of our galaxy, a primitive, warlike race, the Creel, have stumbled upon weapons powerful beyond their wildest imaginings. The Creel have used those weapons to attack their most bitter enemies, the Klingons. Now, Captain Jean-Luc Picard and the crew of the USS Enterprise have been called in to mediate the dispute. The USS Enterprise will ferry diplomatic teams from two warring races to the source of their conflict, the mysterious planet where the weapons were discovered, in an attempt to find a peaceful solution to the conflict and discover the origins of the super-powerful weapons before the entire galaxy erupts into a full-scale war. Wow. So anyway, I finished this up last night, and I did really enjoy it. I kind of briefly go into the story. So this race called the Creel are exploring this planet and kind of discover this hidden cache of super weapons. And they get one, they get it up to their ship, and they use it to attack these Klingons that are coming. And they don't really know exactly how to operate these weapons. They seem to be like kind of voice operated, so they just kind of get lucky and they're able to use them. And they are less advanced technologically than other races like the Klingons or the Federation. So they're really happy to get a hold of these things, so they start attacking all the Klingons, and then the Klingons fight back, and it kind of erupts into a full-scale war. The Enterprise is called in because they're called in to mediate this and basically transport both of these races and their ambassadors to the planet so that they can come to some kind of peace accord. So the Enterprise goes and picks up the Klingon delegation first, which consists of a crew of Klingons, and then there's also this old ancient Klingon called Honorable Kobri, who's supposedly one of the best negotiators the Klingons have. He's very well respected. And he brings with him a Klingon female named Gava, who Worf is immediately interested in. So they come aboard, and then they eventually pick up the Creel, and the Enterprise makes its way towards this planet. There is a side story here involving a creature, or a man named Jan, who is a race called a Selvian, which they describe as being something like an elf. And the side story with him is that he has got some sort of incurable disease and is dying. It all kind of comes together in the end, but it just kind of felt strange. So he's friends with Wesley Crusher, and his race has this ability called the Knack, so they can kind of convince people to do things. So he convinces Wesley Crusher to try to find a cure for his disease, and that kind of sets Wesley off on this kind of maniacal quest to work to find a cure for this disease. So they're on their way to this planet where these weapons are, and they're trying to keep everybody from fighting, so they kind of keep them separate, keep them on separate sides of the ships. They disarm them, and everything seems to be going pretty well. So they eventually get to the planet, and they find that the Creel's team is gone completely, and the planet is empty. Well, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. On the ship, there is a bit of... Alright, I'm going to go straight into spoilers here on this one, because I want to have some time at the end to discuss some other things. So, anyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, go ahead and go pick up a copy of Strike Zone today, and then read that, and then come back, and you can listen to the rest of this discussion. So, what happens is that the Klingons and the Creel kind of get along. They end up kind of drinking together. They throw some knives. But one of the Klingons doesn't really like what's going on. So he actually sets it up to make it look like the Creel have poisoned this Honorable Kobri. And then everything kind of just breaks out into an all-out war. So they have these weapons that they've all smuggled aboard, and they start blasting and intent forward, and they're going through the halls, and they're all through the Enterprise, and one of them manages to blast the transporter control. So of course they can't just beam them to security or anything like that. So they've got to round up all these people that are battling. So there's some interesting scenes there. There was some very funny moments in this that really had me going. There was a nice joke by Data where he's being basically confronted by Dr. Pulaski, who's giving him a whole bunch of guff because he's a machine and not a real person. And he's just kind of taking it, you know, and she's just dishing it out to him. And in the end, I'm not doing it justice. Basically, in the end, what he says to her is that she can go ahead and shove it. And he wasn't sure if it was actually an insult or not, and was very happy to find out that it was an insult. So I like Peter David's writing style. It was funny. I thought he captured the characters pretty well. There were a lot of moments that actually had me laughing out loud. When it came to the end of the book, it kind of felt a little out of place. So they get to the planet, and what it is they discover that it's all just a big test by some ancient race. So when they get to the planet and they pass the test by doing the right thing with these weapons and not trying to, I guess, use them to destroy right away, this giant face in space comes and talks to them and tells them, well, this has all just been a test to see how your race would handle this, and you passed. And then Captain Picard is very upset. I think this is coming in like around the beginning of season 2. So they've already dealt with Q testing them. They've dealt with, I think, Nagilum testing them. And they're sick and tired and fed up of being tested. And that's exactly what Captain Picard tells them. And then, of course, what they say after that is, well, that was just another test. So, it was a strange ending. You kind of thought that maybe it would come together and it had more to do with the Creel and the Klingon and what was going on with them. But in the end, it turns out it was just some big alien face. And they passed the test, but they chose not to go with the aliens. They wanted to continue doing what they were doing, of course, and not have to deal with these floating space faces and all that. Now, this is the 5th book that I've read in this series, so I figured I would do kind of up till this point, what do I think, where do I rank these 5 that I've started so far. So we'll just kind of quickly go through them again here. So the first one I read was Ghost Ship, followed up by The Peacekeepers. Next we had The Children of Hamelin, Survivors, and finally we finished Strike Zone this week. Out of these 5 books, I would have to say I most enjoyed Survivors, and I would have to say probably because it gave an in-depth look at a character that maybe you didn't get to see enough of, Tasha Yar. So Survivors, I think, was definitely my favorite out of those 5 that we've read so far. And if we had to follow up quickly, I'm going to say Strike Zone, Ghost Ship, Peacekeepers, and The Children of Hamelin. But for me, these are all 4 out of 5 books. 4 stars out of 5 total, of course. I enjoyed them all, and I'm looking forward to continuing this next week. Next week, we're going to be diving right into Star Trek The Next Generation, book number 6, which is Power Hungry. Looking forward to that, and seeing what the next tales will bring us. So tune in next week, and hope everyone has a great week.